Hello, everyone. Welcome to our interview series for nature-based school founders. Super excited that you're here listening to these founders. They are doing such amazing work, and I'm honored and thrilled to be getting to speak with them. I am Meagan Duncan, founder of Connected Kids Thrive, Positive Behaviors Guide for Nature Schools. And today we have Amber Simmons with Unbound Earth School. Super excited to talk with her today. And as with all the rest of the interviews, we're going to cover three main essential questions. I'm going to go through those real quick, and then we'll invite Amber to introduce herself. So the first question is, what inspired you to start your school in the first place? Number two is, what challenges or behavioral shifts have you gone through yourself as you've gone along your journey? And number three, what do you wish you would have known at the beginning that you can share with everyone listening? Because our audience is, of course, nature-based school founders and also other educators and parents. So anyone who has kiddos, and I think we could all fall into those three categories: an educator or a parent. And so there's going to be, wherever you are in your journey, lots of value is going to be gleaned from this interview. And with that, Amber, will you introduce yourself?
Yes, thanks so much, Megan. Thanks for doing this. I think it's amazing. It's great to have an opportunity to talk about the things I love the most. And so, just like I think everybody that's done this series so far, um, or at least most of them, the biggest push for me to start Unbound is my own daughter and my own family and my own needs. But that being said, before I got pregnant, I was already kind of into a little bit of an alternative lifestyle. Just really cared a lot about um, my whole self. When you think about the whole child, was kind of
Mm,
getting into
mm,
those things about myself. I was into my yoga practice. My yoga journey started, so my spiritual journey kind of got illuminated also. And then at the same time, my best friend was studying Montessori. And so I had not known anything about Montessori at that time and was diving in alongside them. I thought it was fascinating. And this whole theme of following the child just really stood out to me. And I realized I was robbed of my educational opportunity and freedom. And so, all that being said, I eventually had gotten pregnant and knew that, a traditional educational journey is probably not the answer for my family. I didn't know exactly what it was at that point. But as my daughter got older, I actually worked in a Montessori school and kind of tried that out for a little bit. I was an assistant in primary up to upper elementary classrooms, and I helped in the infant room in the after school program, which is where my daughter was at the time. She was about 10 months old. And so there were many things that were great about the program, but there were also many things that I couldn't quite convince myself to keep following through with. And most of it was I saw a lot of um, contradiction of the philosophy in the setting that they had. And I just think that happens a lot of times in some of these programs, especially when you're trying to take public school and standards and put them under an umbrella of something that is alternative. You're just kind of going to run into things that don't make sense. So that coupled with, for lack of a better word, lack of outside time, we kind of moved on and we found a free forest school chapter in the Columbia area. And so that was really great. It was a free program for caregivers to come with their children and hike and be outside and have snacks and read and explore. And so we did that for a while and it was really great. And then eventually I was looking for something that was a little bit more frequent, one, and to try to get my daughter into something that was a drop off program. And so nothing crazy, just a couple hours, maybe a couple times a week.
mm,
And I happened to find something that was similar, kind of fit some of the things that were in my under my umbrella. And it was a nature preschool in the area, very small, really cool program. And so she went there for a little while. And then pretty immediately after she started, the founder of that program knew my background, knew my interests, and asked if I would join the team. And so I eventually became partner of that organization. Learned so much, had a lot of great times. Got to know myself a little bit deeper, got to know my community a little bit deeper, and once again found out some of the things that I would do differently also. And so eventually I created Unbound Earth School. And so it's all these different things of uh, what I feel the community is really asking for. And so those things being self-directed and community-led education, fully outdoors, and fully mixed age. And so that's kind of what started Unbound, although it's evolved a lot since then also.
as as these programs tend to do, which is what they're supposed to do. Like we have this
Right.
vision and we get there and then we're like, okay, what's next? And we evolve
Yes,
with the kiddos. And I think that speaks so much to our job as educators and guides, whether you're a parent or an educator, is always evolving. We expect kiddos to do better every day, to do just a little better, grow a little bit, and that's something that we should definitely be expecting of ourselves. And so
absolutely,
anytime I
absolutely.
anytime I hear an opportunity to talk about anytime I hear an opportunity to talk about modeling, I always jump into that. And something else you mentioned is the whole self and how you were looking for something that um, where you were able to embody your whole self, right? And
Right,
you
correct.
found
Yeah,
and you found that in um, and that's part of what inspired you to start your nature-based school. And
absolutely. Yeah.
you found little bits of that in as you were on your journey, growing in the Montessori school and all that, and then finally your own thing. So cool.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
all right, amazing. And then so you definitely answered what inspired you, and I think that's going to resonate so much with every single listener that's listening. So then, question number two, what challenges have you gone through, or behavioral shifts have you gone through um, along your journey that you can share with us?
Awesome. Another great question. So I'll try to plug in two. I won't take up too much time, but I have two that I do want to talk about. One challenge, not necessarily behavior related, but one of the biggest challenges that our program has faced is location.
Mm,
And so I'm not a landowner myself. And so from the get-go of our programs, we've been collaborating with the community, collaborating with friends, collaborating with farms to utilize their spaces to host our programs. And so for a few years, I really thought that it was very challenging and uncomfortable. And there's a lot of stress that goes into changing locations. And, when you're talking to people, when you're pitching this kind of idea, not everybody's going to get it, or they
mhm,
might get parts of it and they might not get the full aspect of it. And so, again, I felt like that was one of our biggest challenges. But it actually turned out to be our biggest strength, right? As
mhm,
all these things do. And so, with that, um, with all that change brought a lot of flexibility and adaptation, right? And so we've been able to take our programming and adapt it to virtually any setting for any
mhm,
learner at any time. So upon reflection, it's really cool to think about this. And if it were to be that I had my own land and could do whatever I wanted at any time, that would also be great. And I wouldn't have had to think outside of the box as much. I wouldn't have had to learn how to communicate my vision and our
mhm,
philosophy the same way and troubleshoot. And not to mention, letting go of some of the things that maybe aren't as important as I might have thought they were to the greater community. And so even if I'm like harboring them, maybe that's not exactly the right fit at the right time for what our community actually needs. So it opened up room for a lot of great conversations. Um, and then this kind of goes hand in hand with it for when I speak on in the realm of caregivers. And so um, many caregivers in the past have come to our program because they like the philosophy, but maybe there's a component or two that they're just not sold on, which totally makes sense.
mhm,
But that's kind of where more of my own behavior shifts have come in, and it's kind of twofold. One is again letting go of those components that maybe don't fit the time, the present moment is really what it's about.
mhm,
But also being able to be really clear on what I need in each moment so that I can communicate that and and also create boundaries around certain philosophies or certain policies. And so being able to again, know what a boundary is, know how to set it and how to use affirmative language within that and how to uphold that boundary, and also how to move forward when your boundary is crossed. And so, of course, we practice that with the learners. Our program used to be more of a drop off program. So we would practice that in real time a lot more with them. We're more cooperative now, if that makes sense. But enabling that with the caregivers was one of the biggest challenges because, you know, I'm a person who doesn't like to ruffle a lot of feathers. I don't like a lot of drama. I don't think anybody really does.
Mhm.
But these challenges gave me the opportunity to voice my boundaries and my philosophy boundaries and policy boundaries and things like that in a way that gave flexibility for what my ego was harboring, but
Mhm.
also stayed true to who I really am and what I need in order to actually be of service to the community.
I um I love that so much. Dealing with parents and caregivers is we have to have the same kind of care and goal focus, which is connection, cooperation, through effective communication, like you mentioned, with a parent as with a kiddo, a caregiver with a kiddo. It has to
Mhm.
be so nurturing and considerate and respectful and yeah, very, very similar. And I would even say with a parenting partner, I mean, as long as effective communication is there, we can go so many places, especially if we
Correct.
both parties assume positive intent. We have the same goal here,
Right.
and that's for a nature school, a kiddo thriving. And I also think it's so amazing how you shared that, you know, having to be flexible also let you practice honing your truth and
Mhm.
articulating your truth and
Yes.
what you're going for, as well as being flexible. And so I think that
Yes.
juxtaposition is really, really powerful. And so for everyone listening, if you have a location, great. If you don't, great. Like we can still serve kiddos in beautiful, beautiful ways. If you keep parents close, cool. If it's drop off, great. Like a program can look any way you want. And I think the key, as you
Mhm.
said, be flexible because the community will tell you what they need. Whatever your
Yeah.
vision is, or the community will tell you what you need. Um,
Yes, 100%. I think that's definitely something I've learned along the way too is, it's one thing to say that you're community oriented, but it's another thing to live it. And I'd say for the past 2 years, we've been really immersed into getting that feedback of the direct community, hearing their direct needs and implementing that in a way that does work for everyone. Like it's so possible. And we don't see it a lot. It's not always modeled in our society, but it's so possible. And hearing what the community says and doing what you can, what is your part, my part, what is my part in that, even if I don't fully agree with it, holding space for that and letting it be tried out. It's just like you would do if it's just you and the learners in the classroom.
uh, I'm always, that's amazing. I'm always looking for opportunities to highlight hypocrisies in myself mostly. And that's where I know to take
Mhm.
accountability and highlight it for my kids. And so,
Yep.
you know, um, you mentioned ego, which is amazing, and highlighting what your community needs, whether it's what you thought you wanted or not. That's
Yes.
very, very cool. Um, okay, ready for the last question? Yeah.
Let's do it.
Okay. Thinking back, what do you wish? And I guess this kind of gets answered in in the second
Hmm.
question, but maybe there's something else you want to add. What do you wish you would have known earlier that would have helped you feel more confident? Or I don't know. Yeah. What do you wish you would have known earlier that you can kind of share with our audience to maybe help them um, on their journey? Because we talked about our audience being founders, educators, and parents, but there may be some people here who are interested in creating their own nature-based school, which I think is all of our side
Hmm.
goal. Like we need more
Yeah,
of these.
of
We
course.
need more of these for kiddos. And so, yeah, can you share with us if you could give one word or a word of advice, what would you share?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think I totally agree, first of all, that we need so much more of this. Like collaboration is everything. There's never going to be enough. People drive hours to get to these programs, and that's crazy. It's awesome, but crazy. Let's make more. So, with that being said, my number one advice is definitely less is more. And so less of everything, less thinking, less ego, right? Less of the you-ness, more holding space, less materials, um, less of a roster. Like it doesn't matter how many people are there. And I would say less words. I think you can probably really relate with that. Like when we think of behavior and language, like the more that we can be quiet and step back, um, the better outcome always. So, although I feel like a lot of these things I admired and strived for, everything that I'm talking about was something that was my intention. I wasn't necessarily good at it 8 years ago, you know. So, over those 8 years, the theme is definitely less is more. That is one of my biggest mottos. I've our program has never been, it's always been emergent. So we've never had like lessons planned to any kind of full extent until we get to learn about our learners, of course, until we get to learn about the space that we're in. And then we have much more strategized tactics, of course, but that's emergent curriculum. And so less materials. You don't have to spend a lot of money to get all of the things that you see on Pinterest for nature schools. At some point, maybe your program will look like that. But if you kind of go for that first, you're going to notice that you're burning yourself out. And when you bring shiny new things in, the kids are going to turn their noses up at it if they didn't ask for it. So don't waste your time. Don't feel like you have to fill up, a 20 spaces to start your program. Um, I would say you probably want maybe a small handful of people just to make it a little bit well-rounded. But again, it doesn't really matter. Um, and yeah, less words. Always practice observation skills, taking a deep breath and stepping back as much as you can, because the more that we practice that, the more we notice that we tend to primarily just get in the way of learners, no matter their age, even our caregivers who are still learners too. Um, Being the founder and the director of a program, sometimes uh, I would find myself in the past wanting to um, give feedback in real time. If there's something like if there was a language, like we have a handbook, and there's certain language that we try not to use, like stop doing that or don't do that. We try to use affirmative language, right? So like, can you put the scissors down rather than stop doing that? And so if, for example, if a caregiver was saying stop so and so doing that, I would tend to, in the past, give that feedback of, oh, can you try saying yada yada in real time? And I learned that there's no point in doing that now. Reflect on it, and then maybe send them an email or ask to have a meeting and go over some of these philosophies and kind of give them more of the why, um, things like that. So always being able to pause, take that breath, and remember that less is more.
Okay. So many good things there. Um, yeah, less is more is incredible. Even my background is in speech and language therapy and
Mhm.
coaching parents to help their kiddos talk, and less is still more. When we are modeling language, it's very, very purposeful. So
Mhm.
what you say resonates with that too, even for kiddos who struggle with speech and language development.
Yes.
And then also
Hmm.
I imagine you've heard of I scream it all the time from the rooftops of the 500 to 1,000 times a day that kids are told what
Hmm.
to do. And that's
Yes.
not including if they're in outside activities or after school activities, right? Sports, whatever. They're
Mhm.
mandated to do every single thing every second of the time they're there. And then
Right.
therapies, any kind of therapies, it's do this, do this, do this, do this. And it's such a dignity degrading experience. And so when we can be
Yes.
more purposeful, and then you mentioned too, pausing, and a phrase that I teach also is the power in the pause. And what that I
Hmm.
wrote down here is trusting yourself to just pause in that space to see what is the best next step, whether it's for a child
Hmm.
and a parent. And thank you for sharing that you oopsied that for a little bit, kind of going in the moment. And I would say we can all think about that for kids too. Is it necessary to correct that behavior right in the moment? Or is it better to wait in a different time, maybe, do some overt modeling to see if they kind of get the hint, or, an active teaching moment a little bit later, because we don't want to mess up the rhythm and their intention,
Mhm.
all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Exactly.
100%. Yeah. And it's a practice, it's just like anything.
Yes.
It's a muscle that you have to build. As you know, you teach people this all the time, but also, I guess the other part of that is don't beat yourself up. Like you're
Yeah.
going to interrupt people. You're going to say stop sometimes. You're going to say no sometimes. And then you're going to take your deep breath. And next time you'll probably take the deep breath first, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that, to just add on to that, when we do our own little oopsies, we can, especially with kiddos, with adults, it might be kind of strange, but we can be like, whoa, I
Hmm.
shouldn't have said that right there. I need to think about that a little more. Or, something like that. Anytime we can take accountability for our actions, gold.
Yeah.
And I would think that's, for my kiddos and for when I had my, nature school, that was my number one goal, was kiddos feeling brave enough to take accountability. Like,
Yes.
gold.
Yes.
And so anytime I can model that, that is such, and I'm a foster mom too. And, those kiddos need such tender,
Mm.
just, tender trauma informed care all the time. And so when we can take accountability, so anyone that, serves foster kiddos, this is so powerful for them and everyone else. Um,
Absolutely. That's,
those
that really circles it all back to like, starting with the history of how all this came to be for me all the way to present day is through all of this and practicing these things and putting, you know, what I'm preaching into practice, you realize how therapeutic this modality can be, right? So even just whatever you're doing, working with children outdoors, in whatever capacity, you realize how therapeutic this can be. And obviously, you have to take care of yourself. It's a big self-awareness practice, so you have to check those boxes for yourself. But then you realize you're holding the space, and it's amazing how, maybe specifically foster children or, any person, any child, has a space to unfold, so the more that we can practice these things and pass them to other communities and neighborhoods and parents and homeschool groups or whatever it is, the more we're going to see it ripple out.
Yeah, amazing. Oh my gosh. Um, okay. Well, do you feel like you want to add anything else, or are you ready to share how people can reach out to you?
Yeah, I think that's it. I feel like
Okay.
we could probably talk forever.
Oh yeah,
We'll have to do it
definitely.
another time. But, but yeah, if anybody wants to connect, the best way is to reach out through email. So unboundearthschool@gmail.com. Our website is unboundearthschool.org. And so you can contact me through there as well. You can check out more of what we're up to. And so I'd love to support you in whatever capacity. I offer mentorships, of course, but I also would love to just chat and connect and support you as a caregiver or an educator or whatever it might be. And yeah, I look forward to any feedback or questions.
Um, Very cool. And I'm looking, everyone go to her website and her nature school. You guys built a little fire clay thing. And
Yes. Yeah.
I just love that so much because it's so meaningful. I think kiddos need such more meaningful work, full body
Yes.
immersion work that's meaningful. So
Yes.
amazing.
It's the cob oven. The cob oven checks all the boxes. It's incredible.
Every
Yeah. So
development.
reach out if you want to learn about those or build one. Like, please let me know. It's amazing community connection thing. It just so many good things.
So many good things. So definitely follow Amber, everybody. And then, if you are looking for more behavior support for your team, that is how I help. I am obsessed with behavior from all different modalities, and I work with teams in helping them deepen their understanding of behavior so they can approach children's behaviors from a need-based perspective so that we're reinforcing the right things. If you're finding behaviors repeating, it's because they're being reinforced. And when we don't understand the need underneath the behavior and we approach it from our own mistaken beliefs, we reinforce it for ourselves too. So not only are we reinforcing it for the kiddo, reinforcing it for ourselves. So that's what I do. I'm offering some cool deals right now. You can find more at I'll post my link how you can reach out to me in the notes below, and I will also post Amber's. So with that, everyone, I hope you enjoyed this. If you want to be featured next, let me know. These are so fun. As Amber and I were kind of chatting beforehand, these are, this can be such lonely work as a founder of a nature school. It's the most amazing work, and it can feel kind of lonely too, and we can all resonate with most of everybody's stories. That's the cool piece.
Mhm.
So with that, thank you for being here and watching, and we will talk later. Thank you, everybody. Bye.